Welcome to the world of gaskets. At Total Refrigeration Gaskets, our goal is to provide a quality product that fits properly. Please take a few minutes to watch this presentation. If gaskets are new to you, this will calm your fears. Even if you have been dealing with gaskets for years, you might learn something new. The idea is to get the right gasket. Let's talk about some of the basics. Gaskets are a PVC extrusion. Harsh chemicals such as bleach and sanitizer will shorten the life of a gasket. Warm soapy water is the safest cleaner. PVC gaskets are rated to 175 degrees, so they can be used on warmers. Any temperature above that will shorten the life of your gasket. A different type of gasket should be used in that application. When we talk about gaskets, we use some terms that you may not understand. To facilitate better communications, let's take a minute and talk about the parts of a gasket. The magnet pocket is the square pocket that makes contact with the front face of the refrigeration unit when the door is closed. The magnet creates a better seal and in most cases actually keeps the door closed. If you just have a pull handle, not a latch, you must have a magnetic gasket. The accordion is the bellows area right below the magnet pocket. In most cases, it attaches to the bottom of the magnet pocket. Some gaskets have an external accordion that attaches to the side of the magnet pocket. The accordion gives the gasket stretch to compensate if the door or the unit warps. When you are adjusting hinges, try not to stretch the accordion unless it's absolutely necessary. The base is the part of the gasket that touches the door when the gasket is installed. Often this portion is stiffer than the magnet pocket or the accordion. Most often this will be referenced in relationship to the magnet pocket, such as is the magnet pocket offset to the outside of the base, as in our illustration, or centered on the base. This will help when describing a gasket. The dart is a protrusion from the base of a dart-style gasket. It fits into a groove or track on the door to anchor the gasket in place. It is a simple method to install a gasket and requires no tools. The flap is the piece that fits under the door plate when installing a screw-on style gasket. The first step in ordering a gasket is picking the right profile. Is there a dart? How long is it? How thick is the gasket? Where is the magnet pocket in relationship to the base? Let's see how to figure that out. Begin with how it mounts. This is the most important part. There are 4 categories for gaskets: screw-on, push-in, dart, and panel gripper. A screw-on gasket mounts around the door plate or with mounting strips. It may be screwed on or pop riveted. A screw-on gasket will always have a flap. The gasket is multifunctional. It seals the door as well as creating a thermal break for the door. The flap prevents the inner metal of the door from conducting the cold to the outside of the door, which could create a moisture problem. A push-in gasket has a wide protrusion from the base. This fits into a groove that is molded into the door or between the inside door plate and the outside metal of the door. It is very important to measure push-in gaskets accurately. A dart gasket has a thin, arrow-like protrusion that inserts into a track or groove in the door. This dart may be only 1/4 of an inch long or up to as much as a 1/2 inch with multiple barbs. Multiple barbs are sometimes referred to as triple darts. Panel gripper gaskets mount around a panel on the door. The hook on the flap of the gasket catches a beading around the panel. This style gasket is rare. Now that we have established how your gasket mounts, we need to decide if it's a magnetic gasket or a compression gasket. The square magnet pocket is one way to recognize a magnetic gasket. If the door has a pull handle instead of a latch, you must have a magnetic gasket. This does not necessarily apply to drawers. If you are still not sure, see if a paper clip will stick to the front face of the gasket. Although a compression gasket was originally round on top, this roundness compresses flat when the door is closed. As the gasket ages, it retains that flat shape. The thickness of the gasket is very important. It should be thick enough to fill the gap between the door and the unit. If possible, this should be checked on the hinge side with the door closed. A magnetic gasket with an accordion can be slightly thinner than the gap. It will stretch. A compression gasket should be thicker than the gap in order to compress. Thickness is critical. Too thick and the door will not close. Not thick enough and the cold air escapes. The next feature to check is the width of the magnet pocket. This will help in identification, but is not critical. Usually the bigger the magnet, the better the seal. We do use higher energy magnets in some of the smaller sizes to compensate for the smaller contact area. Now it's time to pick your profile. How does it mount? Screw on? Dart? How long is the dart? Find the gaskets on your sample ring that mount like yours. Narrow it down further by picking between magnetic and compression. Have you seen your gasket yet? Odds are you have. Check the thickness of the gasket as well as the width of the magnet pocket. Check where the magnet pocket is in relation to the base of the gasket. Sometimes you may not see the exact gasket that you have, but if you find one that matches all of these criteria, it will work in your application. Still not sure? Don't worry. We will go over each profile later in the presentation. The next step in ordering your gasket is measuring. Since gaskets mount in different ways, they can be measured in different ways. All gaskets can be measured OD or outside dimensions. Screw-on and panel grippers can only be measured that way. Dart-style gaskets can be measured OD or dart to dart. Let's start with OD. Outside dimensions are measured to the widest part of the gasket. This is almost always the base of the gasket. Don't make the mistake of measuring just to the magnet pocket. When we measure, cut, and weld the gaskets, we are looking at the dart or flap side. We cannot see the magnet pocket when the material is in the machine fixture. Dart-to-dart measurements are sometimes necessary. If it is difficult to tell where the outside edge of the gasket is due to wear, or the existing gasket does not fit properly or is missing, dart-to-dart is required. Measure from the center of the groove on one side to the center of the groove on the other side. Avoid trying to measure the gasket itself when not installed on the door. It is very difficult to get an accurate measurement. Measuring the door is much better. You do not have to remove the complete gasket to measure dart to dart. Pull the top corners away from the door just enough to see the groove. Make a mark straight up from the center of the groove on both sides. Measuring between those marks will give you the width of your gasket. Do the same thing on the side and you have your height. Be sure to reattach the corners. Screw-on gaskets are always measured OD. If there is no gasket, or if it does not fit properly, you can measure the plate to which the gasket mounts. A screw-on gasket has a small amount of stretch, so this will give a nice snug fit. Remember, gaskets stretch, but magnets do not. Don't go overboard and measure too tight. Your magnet will not reach into the corners properly. Although most gaskets have 4 sides, there are some that will not run along the bottom of the door. This is most often seen on walk-in units. Unless there is a raised floor, there is no contact point for the gasket to seal against. In this instance, you will find a drag sweep. You will also find 3-sided gaskets on roll-in units and some warmers. Be sure to reference the number of sides when ordering. Although we can make 90% of the gaskets in the domestic market today, there may still be profiles that you do not find on your sample ring. You may want to do some creative gasketing. If you can find a gasket on the sample ring that mounts in the same manner as the existing gasket, you are halfway there. If it is a dart or push-in gasket, be sure that the sample fits properly in the groove. Next, on the hinge side of the door, check the thickness of the gasket. Be sure that it will fill the gap between the door and the unit. Dart gaskets should always be measured dart to dart when retrofitting. Sometimes you may encounter problems with gaskets. Let's talk about some of the most common. Often the hinge side of the gasket will not lay flat against the unit. It will roll to the inside. We can make that gasket with filler tube instead of magnet on that side. This will allow it to compress and alleviate the problem. It is cost prohibitive to ship all gaskets flat. We recommend removing them from the box as soon as possible and storing them flat. Heat will remove the kinks from shipping. Warm water, sunshine, a heat lamp, a heat gun, or a hairdryer will all work. If using a heat gun, keep it moving. It can melt the gasket. Sometimes the magnet will move inside the pocket when a gasket is twisted for shipping. This can result in a ripple when it is straightened. Check your corners to see where the magnet seems short. When installing, always work from the corner with the magnet toward the corner where the magnet is short. This will push the magnet back into place. This presentation gives you a good foundation for gaskets. If you have questions about anything that you have seen here or didn't see here, please don't hesitate to call our customer service department. We recommend that you do call us from the location of the unit in question. While you have us on the phone, ask about our convenience services. Quotes and order confirmations can be emailed for immediate information. Invoices can be emailed within 1 working day from shipment date. The date of the invoice reflects the date it was shipped, and the invoice includes the UPS tracking number as well as the freight amount. We have the ability to create a customer log, so you only have to identify and measure once. Just tell us what you would call the unit, and it is saved. We can even email a copy of your log. Best of all, each gasket will have a total tag. This will tell you the material, size, and the unit name, among other things. Our goal is to make your life easier, and once again, to get the right gasket. This concludes Part 1, General Information about Gaskets. Please continue and learn more about each gasket profile. Find out where each profile should be measured, which profiles are specific to certain manufacturers, and special tips about measuring and installing.